Good morning to all of you. We are here to present about the history of table tennis. History and development. Table tennis is a very popular, especially in Asia, and is among the most popular sports in the world in the terms of player number, as well as one the newest of the major sports. Ang table tennis daw ay popular sa East Asia and popular ang larong ito sa tema ng player number. Then, Pickpacquiao is the official name of the sports in mainland China, Hong Kong, Taiwan at Macau. Ang tawag daw sa table tennis ng mga taga mainland China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Macau ay Pickpacquiao. Takyu is the official name of the sports in Japan. Takyu naman ang tawag ng mga taga-Japan sa table tennis. Takgu is the name of the sport in Korea. Sa Korea naman ay Takgu. History. The history of table tennis is a long and interesting sequence of events which would require a book to do it justice. This article provides a brief overview of the origins of the game, as well as what generally acknowledged as many of important highlights of the game's development. Ang history daw ng table tennis ay isang mahaba at interesadong sekwen ng pangyayari na ayon sa libro. Then, ang article daw na ito ay nagpo-provide ng brief overview ng origin ng table tennis and nakapaloob dito yung mga important highlights kung paano na-develop yung table tennis. This is often conflicting information regarding the early days of table tennis, and all differing opinion are presented here for the completeness. Meron daw mga information na hindi masyadong malinaw ata, ganun. Kung paano na-develop yung table tennis nung mga 1880s, ganun. Early origins of table tennis or ping pong. #12th century. 12th century AD. The game of table tennis probably descended from the game of royal tennis which was played in the medieval era. Noong 12th century daw, sa panahon ng medieval era, ang table tennis daw ay royal tennis ang tawag ata. Tapos noong 1880s, some source claim that the sport was known as indoor tennis and was played in the early 80s by the British Army officer stationed in India and South Africa. These officers are supposed to have used cigar box lids as paddles, rounded wine battlecocks as ball, and book for an improvised net. Noong 1880s daw, ang mga British Army na naka-estasyon sa India and South Africa ay ang ginamit daw nila sa paglaro ng table tennis ay cigar box lids bilang isang paddle and rounded wine bottles cooks as a ball and book for the net. 1880s, the game had become fashionable among upper class in England. 1887, according to the ITTF website, the first use of the name table tennis appeared on the board and dice made by J.H. Singer of New York. Base daw kay J.S. Singer ng New York, ang table tennis daw ay hango sa board at saka dice game. Tapos, 1890, the earliest existing evidence of table tennis game is a set made by David Foster, patented in England, which include table version of table tennis, cricket, and football. Noon daw 1890, si David Foster ay nag-existing ng evidence ng table tennis sa England na may version ng lawn tennis, cricket, and football. 1891, John Jacques of London introduced the Gusima game, which used drum-type paddles, a 50 millimeter wrap crock ball, and a 30 centimeter high net. Si John Jacques ng London daw ay ang pinangalan daw niya sa table tennis noong 1891 ay Gusima, na mayroon daw kagamitang drum type paddle na mayroong 50 millimeter web wrap. Hindi. Mayroong 50 millimeter. Tapos ang net daw noon ay may high na 30 centimeter. 1890s. Parker Brothers begin make an indoor tennis kit, which include the portable net and a small covered in netting and paddles. Noon daw 1890s, ang Parker Brothers ay nagkaroon ng gamit na pang-indoor para sa table tennis na mayroong komportableng net na at maliit na bola at paddles. Tapos 1890s. By this time, several patents with basic rules have been registered. Dito daw nagkaroon na ng rules kung paano laruin ang badminton. Ay, ang table tennis. 1900 nga. Englishman James Gibb is credited with bringing hollow ciliud balls back to England from the USA, through some other sources claim they were plastic ball. Previously, most balls were solid rubber or cork, often covered in material. Some sources also credit Gibb with inventing the name ping pong, which was battledores or paddles, each of which had a different sound. Dito daw si James Gibb ay nagdala ng hollow ciliud balls ng pagbalik niya ng England galing USA. And iba daw sources ay nag-claim na ito daw ay plastic balls. Tapos nung previously daw, ang bola ay solid rubber and cork, often covered in materials. Tapos na-imbento daw ni James Gibb ang table tennis na pinangalanan niyang ping pong dahil daw sa Pag umuntol daw yung bola sa paddles ay nagkakaroon ito ng different sounds.
1901. John Jack registered ping pong as a trade name in England. The American rights to the name are sold to Parker Brothers. On the 12th of December 1901, the Table Tennis Association is formed in England. 4 days later, the Ping Pong Association is also formed in England. In 1901, table tennis is first brought to China via Western settlements. In this year, the British manufacturer John Jack and Son Ltd. trademarked the game with the name Ping Pong that featured exclusively John equipment to play the game. The same game, when played with the equipment of other manufacturers, was called table tennis. In the United States, the Parker brothers bought the trademark rights from Jack, which came with the same scenario as in England. 1902. Englishman Isigad is credited with putting pebbled rubber on his wooden blade, allowing him to put more spin on the ball. This is the forerunner of the ordinary pimpled rubber racket, which will dominate table tennis until 1952. In this year, which means in 1902, Isigad invented the racket with a combination of a wooden blade and pimpled rubber, where the rubber was pasted on the surface of the blade. And the first unofficial world championship that were held in the year 1902 gave the game as a major boost in popularity. 1903. On the 1st of May 1903, the Table Tennis Association and the Ping Pong Association amalgamate, forming the United Table Tennis and Ping Pong Association. This association will later revert its name to the Table Tennis Association before becoming defunct in 1904. 1920s to 1950s. The period between 1920s and the 1950s is known as the Classic Hard Bat era, or Europe-dominated sport. Due to the lack of sponge on the rackets at the time, European players generally were dominant in terms of competitions wins over these decades. 1920s. In the early 1920s, the game began to revive in England and Europe. 1922. The Table Tennis Association is reconstituted with the name English Table Tennis Association being adopted in 1927. 1926. The International Table Tennis Federation is formed. In year 1926, it is the memorable year of the history of table tennis. The International Table Tennis Federation, or ITTF, was formed with Austria, India, Sweden, Denmark, England, Germany, Hungary, and Wales as associate members. And the first World Championship tournament was held in London in 1926. 1926 to 1931. Maria Medniansky of Hungary wins the women's singles event at the World Championship 5 times in a row. Which means in this year, Maria Medniansky wins the World Championship 5 times consecutively. Medniansky wins 18 gold medals overall. 1930 to 1935. Victor Barna of Hungary wins 5 of the 6 men's single events at the World Championship and was runner-up in 1931. In this year, Victor Barna of Hungary becomes 5 times world champion. Barna wins a record 22 gold medals at the World Championship during his career and 40 medals overall. The American Ping Pong Association, U.S. Amateur Table Tennis Association, and National Table Tennis Association merged to form the U.S. Table Tennis Association, which was renamed USA Table Tennis in 1994.
Year 1936. Repainted tables, which made the playing surface very slow, and the high net 6 3/4 inches high, combined to make attacking play very difficult at the World Championships in Prague, Czechoslovakia. This results in the longest rally ever in a World Championships, taking place lasting over 2 hours. 1938. The ITTF lowers the net from 6 3/4 inches to 6 inches and bans the finger spin serves which had been used with devastating effect by American players. Year 1936. Clearly defined here, table is repainted and the net's height increased to play very difficult at the World Championships. This resulted in slowing the game. The rally that happened in Prague was the longest ever rally during a World Championships game. So, naging result po ito ng mga pangyayari noong 1938. Kasi nga po tumagal yung laban tsaka parang nahirapan po yung mga players. Binabaan po nila yung height ng table from 6 3/4 inches to 6 inches. Pero yung finger spin service na sikat noon at naimbento ng mga American players ay naban or became illegal during that year. What is finger spin service? Finger spin serves by imparting spin onto the table with their fingers. It was become so popular during the 1930s that the ITTF decided that in the best interest of the game, kailangan daw po nilang baguhin yung rule at gawing illegal yung finger spin service. So ang bagong rule po ay sa pagsiserve ay i-release po yung bola sa pamamagitan ng kamay lamang. Ito po siya. The service shall be delivered by the server releasing the ball by hand only without imparting of spin into the air. ITTF is International Table Tennis Federation, which is the governing body for all national table tennis associations. That has a role of overseeing rules and regulations and seeking technological improvement for the sport of the table tennis. 1940 to 1946. No World Championships held due to World War II. There is no record of any sport because of World War II. Kasi po nag-start yung World War II noong September 1, 1939 and natapos po siya noong September 2, 1945. 1946, the table tennis played again at Wembley, London to revive the ITTF after the dormancy of the Second World War. Nagkaroon po ulit ng championship dito. 1950 to 1955, Angelica Roseano Adelstein of Romania wins 6 women's singles titles in a row at the World Championships. Since her last title win in 1955, every world champion in women's singles has been an Asian player. Sa 6 years na ito, nanalo daw po si Angelica Roseano Adelstein ng 6 na beses. Lahat daw po ng nanalo sa women's singles ay nagiging Asian player. So, sino nga ba si Angelica Roseano Adelstein? She is one of the players of table tennis and the first Romanian woman that wins a world title in any sport. In 1954, she was awarded Romania's highest sports honor, the title of Merited Master of Sport. Siya po si Angelica Roseano Adelstein. 1950s to 1970s, Sponge Bath era or rise of Japan and China. The sponge bath era in this period is a wooden racket coated with thick foam sponge rubber was invented. The first player that used sponge bath was Austrian Waldemar Fritsch at the 1951 World Championships. 1952. Hiroji Sato of Japan becomes notorious for his use of a wooden racket covered in thick foam sponge rubber. which produces much more speed and spin than conventional pimple dropper rackets. He wins the 1952 World Championships over Joseph Koksian of Hungary and begins a period of Asian male domination in the sport, which will last until Sweden rises to supremacy from 1989 into the early 1990s. Yung gamit daw po ng racket, which is invented by Waldemar Fritz, ay nagpe-produce daw po ng mas mabilis kumpara sa pimple dropper rackets na ginamit noong classic hard bat era. Si Hiroji Sato daw po ay nagsimula ng Asian domination or supremacy over another of the sport hanggang 1900s when Sweden was handed the baton or rises to supremacy, naglas na po yung Asian domination. 1957, the World Championships changes to a biennial event once every 2 years due to the logistics of hosting an event of such size and difficulty in finding suitable venues. World Championships will occur once every 2 years because they can't find suitable venues to play table tennis at nagkakaroon ng madaming involved sa pag-host ng event. 1958. The first European Championships is conducted in Budapest, Hungary and sees the USSR's debut in international table tennis. USSR is Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. 1959 to 1960. The ITTF standardizes the thickness of ordinary pimple rubber and sponge rubber. Ginawa daw pong pamantayan ng ITTF ang kapal ng ordinary pimple rubber at sponge rubber. On 1959, Rong Gutuan is the first Chinese world champion in any sport when he won the men's table tennis title before committing suicide in his early 30s during the Chaotic Cultural Revolution. Noong 1960 daw po, naimbento yung loop drive. A loop in table tennis is an offensive stroke with the primary purpose of producing lots of topspin. Meron pong dalawang types ng loop, forehand loop and backhand loop. In the early 1960s, the loop drive was invented and became popular around the world. From around 1965 to 1971, China under the rule of Ma Zedong disappears from world table tennis events. Noong 1965 hanggang 1971, hindi na nakapaglaro ang China dahil sa rule ni Ma Zedong. Si Mao Zedong ay kilala din bilang Mao Zedong. He is the chairman of the Communist Party of China. By the late 1960s, things were happening within table tennis. The ITTF had continued to correspond with the Chinese Table Tennis Association throughout the period of the Cultural Revolution. So, yun daw po ang reason kung bakit natigil yung paglalaro ng China ng table tennis sa World Championships. China had been the strongest table tennis nation in the world in 1965. 1961 to 1965, Zhuang Zedong of China wins 3 men's singles titles in a row at the World Championships, each time over compatriot Li Furong. Zhuang Zedong joined the national team as a teenager. He is small for a table tennis player, but he had very quick reflexes and had trained in martial arts. He became a national hero by winning 3 world championships in table tennis during 1961, 1963, and 1965. Si Li Furong naman po ay Chinese male table tennis player that starts to play at 15 and joined national team in 1959. In men's singles competition, he made 3 consecutive appearances at the finals of the World Championships in 1961, 1963, and 1965. 1960s. In the early 1960s, Shang Xilin of China uses a yin-yang bat with normal rubber on one side and long pimples on the other, the first recorded instance of successful combination bat play. Shang Xilin, siya daw po yung unang gumamit ng yin-yang bat na kombinasyon ng normal na goma at pimpled rubber. 1971, China returns to international competition at the 1971 World Championships. Bumalik ang China sa paglalaro ng international competition sa 1971 World Championships. Nag-invite po sila ng players sa England, US, Canada at Colombia for a series of friendly table tennis matches.
1971, the U.S. table tennis team takes a ping-pong diplomacy trip to China in a world first effort to use sport to establish and improve diplomatic relations. 1971, the U.S. table tennis team takes a ping-pong diplomacy sa China, tapos sa unang pagsisikap sa mundo na gamitin ang sport upang ito ay may tatag o may pabuti ang mga diplomatic relations. 1971, Jean-Paul Weber of France uses the first anti-spin rubber in the championship in Nagoya, Japan and enjoys some success with its use. 1971 pa rin, ginamit ni Jean-Paul Weber of France yung unang anti-spin rubber sa championship sa Nagoya sa Japan. Tapos yung ginamit niya sa pagtagumpay nito. Tapos 1971, the first Commonwealth Championship are held in Singapore. Yun nga, ang unang Commonwealth Championship ay ginanap na sa Singapore. 1970s 2000, the age of speed, glue, and technology. 1970s, table tennis players discovered that using bicycle tire repair glue. To put this discovery is often credited to Dragutin, Solvik of Yugoslavia, and Tibor Klamfar of Hungary. This discovery is called speed glue. Parang yung natuklasan ng mga manlalaro ng table tennis ang paggamit ng bicycle tire repair glue, yung pagpupuni ng gulong ng bisikleta. Parang ito yung madalas na pagtuklas na ilalagay doon kay Dragutin, Solvik, Yugoslavia at Tibor Klamfar of Hungary. Tapos, this discovery is called speed glue. Parang ito na yung, sa pagtuklas nun, tinatawag na speed glue. Parang ganun. 1970s, 1989, China is the dominant force in both men's and women's events on the world scene, winning multiple events at all world championships. Ang China ang nangingibabaw sa pwersa sa mga kaganapang panlalaki at pambabae sa mundo na nanalo ng maraming mga kaganapan sa lahat ng mga championship. 1980, John Hilton of England wins the European Championship using a combination but of normal rubber and anti-spin, twiddling the racket and playing aggressively. Si John Hilton ng England ay nanalo sa European Championships gamit ang mga bat of normal rubber and anti-spin, twiddling the racket and playing aggressively. Tapos, 1980, the first World Cup event is held in Hong Kong. Ang unang kaganapan sa World Cup ay ginanap sa Hong Kong. 1982, the initial World Veterans Championship is conducted in Gothenburg, Sweden. Ang unang World Veterans Championship ay isinagawa sa Gothenburg, Sweden. 1980s, in 1985, the two-color rule is adopted to reduce the effectiveness of combination rackets. So, noong 1985, ang dalawang kulay dalawang kulay is adopted na ay pinatibay upang bawasan ang bisa ng mga kombinasyong racket. 1988, table tennis became an Olympic sport in Seoul, South Korea. Ang table tennis ay naging isang Olympic sport sa Seoul at saka Seoul, South Korea. 1989-1993, Sweden break the Chinese stranglehold in Men's World Championship, winning the 1989, 1991, and 1993 team events and producing the 1989 and 1991 World Men's Champions John Ove Waldner and Jen Purcell respectively. China continues its dominance in female rugby. 1989-1993, sinira ng Sweden ang stranglehold ng mga sa Men's World, ng mga Chinese sa Men's World Championship na nanalo sa 1989-1991 at yung 1993 teams na mga kaganapan at nag-produce ng 1989 at 1991 World Men's Champions ng January Waldner at Jen Person at yun sa rank sa pagkakasunod-sunod ng mga rango.
1995 present. China reasserts its control over the men's team and men's single events at the World Championship. Naghari daw ata dito ang China ng men's team and men's singles ng larong table tennis sa World Championship. Tapos 1997, John Owe Waldner wins the men's single title at the World Championship for the second time, this time without the loss of a single game. Si John Owe Waldner daw ay nanalo ng men's singles ng table tennis sa World Championship ng pangalawang beses na. Tapos, nung naglaro daw si John Owe Waldner ng single table tennis noon ay dire-diretso daw ang panalo nito at walang talo. 2000. A brief blip in the Chinese men's dominance occurred when the aging Swedish trio of John Owe Waldner, George Persson, and Peter Carlson combined to steal the men's team title thrilling the final. Yung tatlo daw na Swedish trio, which is sina Jan Ove Waldner, Jorgen Persson, and Peter Carlson, ay nagsama-sama sa isang men's team title ng Thrilling Finals.
2000, the ITTF increases the ball diameter to 40 mm. Binago daw po ng ITTF yung sukat ng bola from 38 mm ay naging 40 mm after the Olympic in Sydney. The size was increased to make it more appealing to spectators. Parang sinasabi na para makita siya sa mga TV. It is the first time that ITTF increased the diameter of the ball. In 2001, the ITTF changes the scoring system, moving the 11-point games and using a best-of-5 games or best-of-7 games match. Binago ng ITTF yung scoring system. Before, table tennis played up to 21 points, but in order to make the game more exciting and to make it more appealing to television viewers, the rules of table tennis changed and now played up to 11 points. So, kung sinong player or pair ang makakakuha ng 11 points, yun ang panalo. The winner of best of 5 set in table tennis must win 3 sets. A match can be a best of any odd number of games, 3, 5, or 7, but most people play 5 games. 2002, table tennis becomes a Commonwealth Games sport at Manchester, England. Table tennis first appeared on the Commonwealth Games program in Manchester and has appeared at each Games since. Commonwealth Games table tennis competition is played out according to the rules of ITTF. This competition consists of total of 9 medal events. The Manchester 2002 Commonwealth Games were the largest multi-sport event held in England.
In the year 2003, Werner Schlager of Austria breaks the Chinese stranglehold on the men's singles world championship title, saving several match points along the way against opponents in Wang Liqin and Kong Lingwei. He meets Jo Seok of South Korea in the final. Jo is the first defensive player to make the men's singles final since the Eberhard Scholar of Germany in 1969. Scholar also lost in his final to Japan Shigeyo Ito. In this year, which means World Table Tennis Championship Men's Singles was the 47th edition of the Men's Singles Championship, and Austria's Werner Schlager beat South Korea's Jo Seok to take the prestigious title of World Champion. In the year 2000s, in the early 2000s, frictionless long pimples became popular among many players in an attempt to negate the power and spin produced by modern technology and speed glue. In this year, which means in the year of 2000s, it is the age of speed glue and technology.
2006, the intended banning of frictionless long tips and speed glue with toxic organic solvents is announced by the ITTF. Inihag ng ITTF ang nilalayong pagbabawal sa walang frictionless long tips at speed glues na may mga nakalason na organic solvents. 2007, ITTF withdraws its approval of all table tennis glues following a health incident involving a speed glue user in Japan. Inalis na ITTF ang pag-apruba nito sa lahat ng table tennis glues kasunod ng insidente sa kalusugan na kinasangkutan ng gumamit ng speed glue sa Japan. 2008, the use of speed glues with illegal bulk is banned for all ITTF junior competition as of January 1. The machines that test for illegal bulk are introduced to check for violation infractions. Ang paggamit ng speed glue na may mga illegal ng bulk ay pinagbawal para sa lahat ng ITTF Junior Competition. Simula noong January 1, the machines that test for illegal bulk ay ipinakalala upang suriin ang mga paglabag sa mga patakaran.